Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to the 5th installment of Moonstone Murders live-ish. For those who haven't joined me before, I'm Inspector Jonathan Rutherford, and I will be leading this evening's case for you and helping you throughout the way, but I won't be alone this evening. With me, I'll be our guest detective winners. We have with us this evening D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan joining us, if you'd be so kind to give us a wave. There we are. That's a wave or a hand raise. Either way, that's their way of saying hello. For everyone who's new to the stream, this is a free murder mystery play-on. Before we get going, feel free to share this on any of your social medias as well for any budding detectives you think might wish to join. And this week's case is Murder at Mothely Zoo. For those who haven't heard yet from the news not being released, I'll fill you in on the story a little bit. So, Mothely Zoo, the glorious weather shines down. Families have flocked for a day at Mothely Zoo, where they're delighted by the signs of exotic birds, giraffes, rhinos and penguins, and of course if the kids misbehave, as punishment you take them on a circuit around the moth house. But this weekend, everyone's queuing up for something special at the gorilla enclosure, where they're about to receive their latest resident, a silverback gorilla by the name of Alpro. Alpro was due to arrive yesterday afternoon, or some point between yesterday afternoon and the dead of night, and to be revealed to the public and press this morning. However, when the red curtain was pulled back, horror strikes as there's no sign of Alpro. And even worse, in his place is the body of the head zookeeper, Louise Bartlett. Now, considering there's no CCTV available, but a parrot broke into the internet servers last week and smashed the whole thing up, they've called on myself to crack the case, and as said, I'm not alone this evening. I require your help at home to question my suspicious suspects, and I have with me D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. So, before we get going, hello to yourselves, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. How are you doing this evening?
Good evening. Very well, thank you.
Lovely. Are you ready to do a bit of super sleuthing?
Oh, absolutely.
Wonderful.
We shall have this cracked.
Fantastic. Well, before we get going, why don't you introduce yourselves to the detectives at home? As said, you won our Be Our Guest Detective Challenge. If you could just give us a little bit more about yourselves.
I'm Stephen Harris, resident of sunny Devon, and called into this case because of my specialist background knowledge of cracking online murder mystery events. Big fan of Sherlock Holmes and Newcastle United.
Hi, I'm Constable Kiernan Harris. I'm also live in Devon. I've been on many online murder mysteries online, and I've been in one myself.
So we've got D.I. Harris, who's a fan of Sherlock and Shearer, and then Constable Kiernan, who's experienced in the form before. Fantastic. So we know, Constable Kiernan, your previous sleuthing skills then, and you say as well, D.I. Harris, your previous sleuthing skills is solving our previous cases.
Indeed, online and live as well. I've assisted you, Inspector, on many occasions, whether you knew it or not.
Wonderful. Well, it's all right as long as you've assisted me and I still take the credit for it and smugly drive away. That's fantastic for me. So the way this is going to work is I have some preliminary facts about the case, which I'll give to everyone, and then it's going to be down to D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan to decide the order that we question our suspects in. So before we get going, I'll tell you what, let's find out the suspects that I've got lined up for you this evening. Starting with yourself, Erica, if you could introduce yourselves to all of the detectives playing.
You want me to introduce myself? Thank you.
Yes.
That's what you just said, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, modern technology. It really is the thing. Hello, I am Erica Jolton, and I am head of the Moth House. I'm a lepidopterist, actually, if you wanted to know. So, yes, hello. Good evening. Yes.
Michael?
Oh, hello. My name's Michael Mothley. I'm one of the head honchos at the zoo, one of the executives, but don't worry about that. I'm just normal. I'm just like you. You can call me Michael. My door's always open, except at the moment. It's closed at the moment, so no one comes in.
Okay, Betty?
Oh, hello. Yes, I'm Betty Cornley, and I run Cornley's ice cream cart here at Mothely Zoo.
And finally, Sebastian.
Hello, I'm Sebastian Hayes. I'm a local reporter for the Wimpole Chronicle.
There we are. So those are your suspicious suspects for this evening, and I have some facts to kick you off along the way. Just to check before we get going, D.I. Harris and Constable Keenan do have a pen and paper at the ready.
We have pens, paper, and great minds.
Well, there we are. So hopefully everyone at home has 2 out of 3 there, at least as long as you've got a pen and paper with you. So away we go. So, as said, Louise Bartlett, the head zookeeper, has been found dead under suspicious circumstances. She was discovered this morning in the gorilla enclosure. The time of death, now we predict this to be around the time of the park closure at 6 p.m. last night. As said, thanks to a parrot breaking into the CCTV server's office last week, no footage is actually available, which is why they've asked myself to try and look into this in more traditional measures. Now, from inspection, it seems that Louise was given a lethal dose of tranquilizer, but when she collapsed, she hit her head quite heavily on a rock, and we believe that it was basically her falling and hitting the rock was the final blow. But since a rock can't be tried for murder, I'd like to go after the person that administered that tranquilizer. She had a small puncture wound on her shoulder at the back, but I can't confirm whether that was the actual place that had entered the body, but we can just sort of make assumptions on that one. Now, the crime scene itself is rather odd. She was surrounded by the gorillas, being in the gorilla enclosure, but all of the gorillas, again, seem to be knocked out rather heavily with tranquilizers, but they have no signs of puncture wounds. There was also some sort of white paper wrappers that had been scattered all around the gorilla enclosure, and for some reason a melted chalk ice. Lost on me on that one. Now, I've spoken to a few potential witnesses, and they were all equally useless. The only person that said anything relevant to the investigation was a drunk outside the entrance saying he saw a gorilla running through the car park last night. But again, it was a drunk outside the front of the zoo, so I don't think it's that useful. And that's pretty much all I've got, I'm afraid, on that one. So, I believe it's time to pass over to D.I. Harris and Constable Keenan. You've got our suspicious suspects. Who would you like to question first?
I don't know, Constable. Should we go with Sebastian first of all?
Yes, we can go for Sebastian.
We're going with Sebastian first. Okay, Sebastian Hayes, who has said is a journalist for the Wimpole Chronicle. Now, Sebastian, I'm curious actually. Well, you've popped up on my list as someone suspicious, but what exactly was your relationship to the deceased?
Strictly professional. Absolutely professional. No doubt about that. As one of the key journalists for the Wimpole Chronicle, one of my first jobs, I've been there for about 3 years actually, and one of my first jobs was to report on the new head zookeeper of the gorilla enclosure, and that's when I met Louise, and she's a lovely soul, extremely insightful actually.
Well, I hope you don't mind me saying, I think you might find her a little bit too insightful. Like, you like the fullness in your sights? You know what I'm saying, Sebastian? Yeah, we've seen you around the zoo on one few occasions. Yeah, we've had to ask you to leave, haven't we, Sebastian? It's getting out of hand and, you know...
I don't know anything about being banned. Louise has expressed nothing but
well, we may
kindness.
as well put it out there because the inspector's not daft, is he? What about this restraining order?
What? Was that about the parrot incident the other day? I thought it would be a really romantic gesture. One of her favourite drinks is coffee, so I thought, if I made her an espresso martini and then sent it her way via parrot, it'd be quite romantic, you know. But it turns out that the parrot drunk the espresso martini and then flew off, and there's an endangered bird out and about somewhere.
So you had a drunk, caffeine-fueled parrot flying around the zoo?
Yeah, apparently it doesn't agree with their digestive system either. Yeah. So I've heard a few people, got a little surprise in the zoo as well.
Yes, a few people did get a little bit of a surprise. Sorry to just cut in, but that poor thing tried to get into the moth house, and my moths were absolutely terrified. I hope you're pleased with yourself. Honestly, I'm not surprised it was you that let it out. The reputation that you've got. Also, you're not being very truthful, are you, to the inspector?
I'm being quite truthful, I think.
actually, as you're not being truthful, I shall have to be for you, Sebastian. I'm very sorry, sir. I'm sure you're very nice. However, Inspector and inspectors and DCs and private investigators, etc., etc. The thing is once you were caught letting an endangered bird out of the tropical zone, the police had to sort of escort you off of premises, and then you were banned from the park. Not only that, Inspector, they then did a raid on his car, and they found the most unusual things in the boot, like lots of costumes. Even I find that a little bit weird.
Really?
Well,
Very strange man.
The thing about the costumes is that obviously the paper doesn't necessarily pay me too much money. It's just a little bit embarrassing to say, but I have to sell some costumes on eBay to sort of make up the bits of money. Sometimes I sell them for a little bit of money. Sometimes people ask me to wear them for money. There was that one time where someone asked me to take it off for money, but that's another thing altogether. Look, I have, the costumes. It just makes a little bit of extra money for me. That's all.
Look, while we're all being honest here, Inspector, yeah, I did see Sebastian maybe 2 days ago near the ice cream cart, Cornley's ice cream cart, wearing a blonde wig and a Viking beard.
Oh no, I can explain that as well. Actually,
Really?
yeah. Honestly, so it's a little game that me and Louise play, and basically it's like a live Where's Wally. I kind of hide in with the guests, and she sort of tries to spot me. Another game that we play is hide and seek. She normally hides and I normally try and find her. But my favourite game is where I shout, "I love you," and then she runs away. But that's, it's just, just this fun thing that we have together.
Yes, it's a very unorthodox relationship that you've got there with her. When did you last see her alive? I
last saw her alive about 2 nights ago. Actually, I was performing a song that I'd written for her. It's used from a phrase that she's said to me quite a few times. It's called "Shut up and put down the guitar." It's really, really romantic. It's a gesture just for her, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so you last saw her 2 nights ago. When you were singing, a love song to her, and you haven't
I like to call it a ballad. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think that's everything from my side. I can see a few questions coming in the comment section. Any questions you have for Sebastian, start typing them in now. But let's go over to our guest detectives, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. Do you have any questions for Sebastian?
How often did he come into the park wearing a costume?
Oh, it would only be for when I was playing those games, Sometimes I'd mix and match, and as in a costume, I'd shout "I love you," and then she'd run away, and then we'd switch to hide and seek, something like that. We'd have loads of fun. It was only for Louise though.
And any primate related costumes that you own?
I've been known to have a primate, I suppose, costume before, but I haven't had one recently. No.
Thanks. And how long have you known Louise?
I've first reported on her about 3 years ago, and it's been a match made in heaven ever since.
Yes, I think it's a very one-sided match there. Sorry, any further questions?
That's it for us, I think, for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the comment section. It's very much in a similar vein. So there was just to repeat your question again. It's for clarification. You said you own some sort of primate costumes. Do you specifically have a gorilla costume?
I not now. I don't. I imagine at some point I would have worn one. I'd wear, it depends what the people ask for, I suppose. But no, I don't have one currently.
Yes. Okay. That question was from quite a lot of people. The question, I'm guessing you say you don't know what happened to it, but Tessa Lucas does want to know what happened to the costume you used to have, or do you not know?
I think that one was a hire. It was many years ago. I haven't worn a gorilla costume in a long, long time.
Okay, that sounds like it used to be your thing, but okay. Let's say sweetest candy floss. I think it's more of a rhetorical question. Are we sure it was a game? I'm presuming she's asking about the hide and seek game. I don't think.
She definitely laughed. I never saw her laugh about it, but she definitely did. She definitely found it funny. I think it was.
I'm sure she was laughing all the way to the court to get that restraining order. Question from Simon Laxton wants to know when you were last you said when you last saw Louise alive. When did you last go to the zoo?
I can't really. It must have been a couple of days ago. Yeah, it was. Yeah, or it might have been yesterday. I don't know. I visit that place quite a lot. It all sort of comes into one.
Yes, okay. Curveball one. I think Adrian T is trying to get ahead on the game quite quickly. I'd like to know, Sebastian, if you would suspect anyone of a motive for Louise's murder. So is there anyone else that you think might have done it?
I don't know, but if as soon as I find out the person who did do it, I will challenge them to a duel so I can defend her honour.
Yes, okay. Very chivalrous. Okay, well, Michael Corcoran is a lot less subtle. It just says, "Did you kill Lolly, mate?"
I would never ever kill Lolly. I wouldn't write songs about her if I would kill her. What kind of person do you think I am?
Okay, and Jack Clouseau would like to know when you gave the parrot the coffee. That was last week, if I'm correct.
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was an unfortunate situation. But it was meant to be romantic.
Yes, we'll take a couple more questions, then we'll move on to the next suspects. So, a question from Liz Staniforth would like to know where you were yesterday evening around the time of the incident.
Yesterday evening, I was at home, cuddling my Louise pillow, as I was sort of going through some more songs that I'd written for her, and yeah, well, that's where I was last night.
That's a disturbing image right there. And I'll tell you what, I'll take this final one unless anything good comes in after that. So Brittany Harris, I would like to know if Louise was in a relationship with anyone else.
No, she was in a relationship with me, although she liked to, deny it and hide it. She was in a relationship with me, and we've been happily together for the last 3 years, 3 days, and 45 minutes, I suppose.
Yes. So let's have a look. And there's a couple of interesting ones that have come in, so we'll just take them quickly before we move on to the next suspect. So Andrew Harrison would like to know if there's any ice cream stains on your Viking outfit, and if so, what colour?
I try to avoid stains on my outfit where possible. It depends on the client.
Okay, depends on the. I don't want to know. So that's rhetorical. Sebastian Matt Price would like to know if you had an argument with her before her death. So have you argued with her?
I've never argued. We've only passionately conversated.
Okay. So I'll just take this final one. It's a clarification question from Sebastian and statement earlier. So Mike Wood wanted to know where he stored the costumes. We found an array of costumes in the boot of Sebastian's car.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's where they're easily kept, I suppose. Where else would you store a costume?
On a rail or a cupboard. But so I think that's everything for now. I'll just take this final one because it's one for everyone. Just a simple yes/no. Ollie Rugby would like to know if any of you have handled a tranquilizer gun. Just a quick yes/no, starting with Sebastian.
No.
Michael?
No, very hands off. Very hands off.
Yes. Betty?
No.
And then finally, Erica.
No, not a gun. No.
No. And so they'll blow the poor moth to smithereens. So that's everything for now, I think, with Sebastian. We'll move on to our next suspect. So, D.I. Harris and Constable Kieran, who would you like to question next?
I think we'd very much like to talk to Michael, the executive of the zoo.
To Michael Mothley, who's a member of the zoo's board, and I believe a descendant of the original founder, Lord Mothley, as well.
Lord Gerald Mothley, founder of Mothely Zoo.
Yes, that's pretty much exactly what I said, but you added the word Gerald in. Well done. Michael, yes, good for you. So I was wondering if you could explain it. Well, as I said, you're descended from Lord Mothley, but what exactly do you do at the zoo? What is your job exactly?
Well, as I say, I'm very hands off. I'm a people person. I'm a facilitator.
So you don't put your hands on the people?
No, I don't touch people, no. I don't touch animals either, because I don't like them. I'm a bit scared of them, to be honest, so I don't really get involved. But I'm on the board, and, I go to meetings. They tell me when the meeting is. I get in my car. Mm-hmm. I go to a meeting, and they have nice sandwiches and things.
Inspector, if you don't mind, where I've been a reporter for the Chronicle for a while, I've talked to some board members, and it has to be said they're not a fan of him. I don't really want him on the board at all, to be honest. They spend half their time fixing his disasters.
Mm-hmm. Hang on, what do you mean? I've got a lot of very close personal. I know some of the people on the board by their first names.
Well, it might all be sort of for him, trying to put on fun events and things like that. But
I'm just trying to have a laugh. and I'm trying to get more people into the zoo.
I appreciate that, but
you've got to do fun things to get people in. There's a lot of zoos out there, Sebastian. You don't know the zoo game. I've got spreadsheets, PowerPoint slides.
well,
books.
the thing is that your events, I admit, are fun for me as I'm writing my headlines.
Thank you.
So, for example, there was an event the other day. Imagine the scene: rhino piggybacks for children.
Perfect.
Putting kids on a right. Well, so the headline for that one was "Children Cry Rhino." I thought that was a good one.
Yes.
And then
It's a play on words. I'm impressed, Sebastian. But I tell you what, you were writing about it, weren't you? You were taking your pictures.
Well, yeah. There was the other one as well, where he tried to put a load of sombreros on some otters for some Cinco de Mayo party.
Yeah, have you seen it on YouTube?
Well, yes, but they ate
it's
all
got
of the
100,000
sombreros.
views. They're wearing sombreros.
Well, that one was sombreros cause otter devastation.
Well,
yes,
not according to the comment section. People were very happy to see that. And
Right. I'm not having this petty pun off at the moment. I'm not in the mood for it. Michael, with all of this, though, if you keep creating disasters, how's your position on the board looking at the moment?
Oh, very well. Very well. I mean, I've been trusted with the old, the new, what do they call them?
Gorilla.
Yeah, so I've been trusted with getting a new gorilla.
Yes.
I mean, to come into the zoo. That's why everyone was here yesterday. But there's been a few glitches with that. Well, okay, to be honest, I had to get a new gorilla in for the other
gorilla.
Yeah, they want to have more.
Yes, I'm not filling the blanks in on that one.
Well, it's very technical. So if you don't know about it, it's hard to describe. But
I'm
what
sure you've got a bar graph for it.
No, but it's quite difficult because our budgets are quite low. We're a modest zoo. We're not London Zoo, are we? Are we? No, we're not London Zoo.
Get to the point. Get to the point.
Okay, so budgets are tight. So I had to negotiate with Shanghai, and I had to do Google. We couldn't afford a proper translator to get this new gorilla, so I used what do you call it on Google?
Translate.
But it looks. Translated it on Google. There's been a few, but it'll all be.
I would say you
soon.
Probably messed up the gorilla thing too. Not that I know anything about it, but the gorilla was meant to arrive 3 months ago.
Yeah.
3 months, and it still hasn't arrived. Now, as soon as we sort of got word of it, as part of the Chronicle, I'm trying to call up, trying to get information. When's it coming? What's its name? I called for weeks and weeks, every single day, and all I get is his name's Alpro. That's all I get. How can I give the people that?
Okay.
Well, it's a very personal thing, and it's a nice name, no?
Right, let's move on. Let's move off the gorilla for the meantime. I'd like to go back to the deceased. I'd like to go back. Yes, well done. So I'd like to know, Michael, when you last saw Louise alive.
Oh, right. Well, no. You see, you're asking now.
Yes, it's sort of my job too.
Right. Well, you know me. I shoot with a straight die. I'm a dice man. So. It was about lunchtime yesterday, and I had to deal with some deliveries, and I wanted to speak to Louise about the gorilla from Shanghai, and Louise said she was thinking of changing her mind and just not having a gorilla at all, because she says that the female gorilla is more interested in Brian, who does the brushing up.
Yes.
Because he's quite an airy guy, like yourself. He's quite an airy guy, and so she was more interested. To be honest with you, I'll put it out there. She's more interested in Sebastian, turning up in his costumes, dressed up as the girls from ABBA, trying to merge into the background, and she was more worried about him. The restraining order, the amount of emails I've seen. We get emails on our computers.
Yes. Okay, well that's good to know. I tell you what, actually, I'm
sick of it.
Yes,
Sebastian.
Yes,
I'm sick of him sticking his nose in.
All right. Well, I'm nearly done with you. Actually, let's go back. As much as I regret it, I just want to go back to, because you said you ordered the gorilla. So you say that she wasn't interested. She was thinking about changing her mind. So just to check then. So where's the gorilla?
Oh, what are you asking me if I don't know about gorillas? I don't even know where my toothbrush is. You know, I'm not that. I'm hands off.
Okay, so
Right. So Louisa said she would take care of it. So
Okay.
she's doing I handed all the paperwork over to
yes.
Louisa. It was printed off on 2 sides. The toner was low, but it was fine. You can still see it. So she was worried that there was no point because the female.
She was into yes. Now
Doesn't
now
wanna-
was into
so-
Brian now.
Yeah, so she said maybe she, I don't know, maybe she cancelled it. Maybe she just cancelled the gorilla, or he came and he's escaped and he stole a car and drove off. I mean, that's ridiculous. Isn't it? It's the sort of thing you'll get in Sebastian's blooming newspaper.
Yes, but the thing in Sebastian's newspaper is things that you've done.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
writing
mean,
the truth.
Please tell me if the gorillas escaped, the zoo would be looking for it.
well, yeah, I mean, it would be a bad thing, but you know, like the otters, it would go viral.
All right. Well, on that very interesting note, I think it's time now to pass it over to D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. And as well, everyone at home, I can see a few questions coming in. Type your questions now. D.I. Harris, Constable Kiernan, any questions for Michael Mothley?
So I'll go in first, if I may.
Yeah,
Michael, is the zoo financially stable? Can we just clarify that?
Is it what?
Small zoo. Are we struggling for money at the zoo, or?
Oh no, I mean, I've got the numbers right here. I've got all the numbers here. 85% of the time, 76% of people visit 44% of the zoo. I mean, things are looking good. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with animals or numbers or milk.
Thank you.
Were you planning on making the gorilla go?
Okay. Any other questions?
Why did the gorilla take so long to come?
I beg your pardon. Can you ask me that again?
Answer it
Why-
cleanly, Mr. Mothley.
Why did the gorilla take so long to arrive?
Oh yeah. It was caught up in things. I mean, you know how it is. Shanghai's a long way away. It's further than Scarborough.
Okay, and you mentioned this was the new gorilla. What happened to the old gorilla?
Oh no, we got plenty of gorillas. We just wanted a male to go with the female and create. Well, you know. I don't need to teach you about the birds, the bees, and the moth house, do I? Come on.
Oh,
No,
yes,
especially
yes,
not
the moth house.
No,
Here we
Erica.
go.
Sorry. Any other questions?
Thank you, Inspector. We're all good here.
Okay, lovely. So let's move over to the comments section. So again, this is a question from came in pretty much the same time from Ian Santry and Sherlock Ahmed. I would like to know, what was your relationship like with Louise?
What, me? Oh, great.
Who do you think
I've
I was
got a
talking to?
great-
The Queen's mother?
Well, I've got a great relationship with all my staff. My door's always open. It's just there, and I leave it open, which is handy when the cleaner comes in. You know, it's just come in. But yeah, I mean, Louisa, lovely girl, passionate. I appreciate that.
It's
around the
just,
office.
I don't like that you just used the word passionate. What have you been doing with her?
Well, she was passionate about keeping you at bay, son, weren't she?
It's a game that we play.
Yeah, well, I've got the restraining order right here. Hang on, where is it? It's underneath these figures. Here we
Okay,
go.
moving on.
There's a restraining order I signed the other day.
God, it's like
With
handbags
me
at
name.
dawn. Okay, moving on. So someone's cutting. Oh, Regine Speck is cutting right to the point. Same as with Andrew Harrison. We'd like to know if Michael, did you wear a gorilla suit?
Did I what?
Did you wear a gorilla suit? Or Andrew
No, it's
Harrison.
River Island, mate. River Island.
Yes, no, I'm not asking if you're wearing one now. Andrew Harrison, to clarify, did Michael wear the gorilla suit to pretend the gorilla arrived?
Well, I don't know what you're on.
There we are.
I mean, I work in the boardroom, right? This is my world. This is my universe. Look, this is where the magic happens. Okay.
Okay.
Gorilla suit.
So Henry Wolves asked if you bought a fake gorilla.
Did I what?
Did you buy a fake gorilla?
Fake gorilla?
Yes.
No, I didn't buy a fake
There we are.
gorilla. No.
So.
This is the sort of thing that Sebastian puts in his blooming newspaper.
Yeah. Yes.
I've got loads of notes. I tell you, this
Yes,
is
Yeah,
Sebastian.
well,
Okay. Yes.
amazing.
Right. Can you two pipe down for a moment? So Jack Slow would like to know if Michael has any mental health issues.
Did what?
Yes, I know. I think it's
That's
something.
what I'm
Probably,
front page.
I think it's probably not best to discuss that on the stream and to save that with your therapist. Flying
Well,
Fluff.
if you mean, have I got an ongoing relationship with the HR department? Yeah, I spend a lot of time talking to them. Yeah.
Oh, I can fully appreciate the fact you've failed most of the training sessions there, Mr. Mothley. So Flying Flusky would like to know: Did you think closing the gorilla exhibit would lose the zoo money? Would you? Well, it's just a basic data thing. Would you lose money if you shut the gorilla exhibit?
Oh, it's the gorillas are very popular. So are the with the teeth and
Beavers?
Okay.
tigers. Sorry,
yes.
tigers.
Okay. Let's have a look. No, that's just a comment. Test G just says you can tell he's an executive because he talks so much waffle. Let's see. Michael, you don't. Sweetest Candy Floss. Michael, you don't like animals. Why are you working at a zoo?
Well, it's a family firm. I mean, I wouldn't say I don't like them. I'd just say that I'm physically scared of all of them.
Okay.
Just
There's a couple of things here. It says about. I want to know if you can eat ice cream.
ice cream.
Yes.
Worst case scenario. I'm. What do you call it? Lactose.
Intolerant.
I don't like milk. Yeah, I can't.
Lactose. I don't like milk. I believe that's the technical
If there's
term.
anything I'm more scared of than animals, it's that. I can't. No, I can't. Anything milky. I don't like any milk. I can't have anything that's milk based.
Right, I get the point with the milk. You don't like milk.
Well, it's technical, isn't it? So
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm just
Francis
trying
Baker. I'll take. This is the final question for Michael before we move on. Francis Baker would like to know, Michael, why do you think you're a suspect?
Well, I just think I'm a nicely dressed bloke. I'm a confident fella. I can understand why people are talking about me.
As a potential murder suspect.
Well, I mean, yeah, I have a lot of meetings in a day. I've got one after this. It's about the new cleaners.
Okay. I think that's everything from this side then. So let's move on to our next suspect. We're done with Michael for now. So D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan, you have left Erica Jolton, or the Moth Lady, or you have Betty Cornley, the ice cream seller. Who would you like to question next?
I think, Inspector, we're very keen to find out why Betty's amongst us this evening. So, Betty Cornley, if we may.
Okay, we're going for Rainbow Hat. So, Betty, now, I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been working at the zoo.
Yes, so as you know, I'm Betty Cornley, and I've been working in Mothely Zoo for about 10 years now, actually, just like my father did, and his father before that, and his father before that. You see, because when Lord Gerald Mothley, rest his soul, bought the land for the zoo, he purchased every single bit of it except for this little patch that is 2 by 2 meters squared, to be precise, right in the center of the zoo. There was a bit of an oversight with the deeds, you see.
Yes.
And that little bit of land is where Cornley's ice cream cart, has been for about 100 years now. Yeah, we've been there right in the middle, right next to the gorilla enclosure. Yeah.
I can confirm that. Cornley's cart has been right at the heart of my strategy for many years. Real favourites. There's always a queue. Whenever I see a queue,
Cornley's cream.
I say, look, that's the queue for the ice cream.
Yes, it's very, very delicious.
It's lovely. And if I wasn't so intolerant of milk-based products, lactose intolerant, if you will, Inspector, then I'd be queuing up there as well. But I hope you don't mind me saying, Betty, you've had some problems with Louise. She keeps funny times. It's not good for trade, and your business has been affected in recent years. And we've had conversations like that about it in this very boardroom. My door's always open. It's not open at the moment, but I know you've had financial problems and. Yeah, most of it down to Louise just not working with you. So Cornley's cart every time. All the ice cream in the world, not me. It'll kill me, but
No, I know. And do you know what, Michael? To hear you say that you can never have an ice cream in your life, that hurts me. Like, it really hurts me. It's like when someone comes up to you and they say, oh, I prefer fab to a knobbly bobbly.
Yeah.
And you're like, why would you say that to me? It kind of, it just hurts my ice cream soul. But I don't mind you saying that Louise and I were having a few problems. Yes, it is true that, how can I put this politely? She had an erratic nature towards gorilla feeding times. And so the old head keeper and me had a great relationship. She would give me a schedule of when the gorillas were going to eat, and I would work my business around that, you know. And with Louise, she would decide at any time of day to announce over the tannoy that it was feeding time for the gorillas, and I would lose my queue of customers because they'd go off and run to watch the gorillas eating, and they don't come back after that. Like, once you've seen a gorilla having lunch, you're not interested in ice cream after that.
Did you try and reason with Louise about this?
I tried talking to her about it, yeah, but she just dismissed me. She just dismissed me as if it was nothing.
Is that why you took matters into your own hands then?
Sorry, what? What are you talking about?
Well, I was taking some pictures just before the pre-feeding time, and I saw Betty throwing some chalk ices, I think they were, into the enclosure, and well, after, I got a few good shots actually of all of them eating them, but then they all just one by one flopped on the ground. Soon they passed out.
Really? That's interesting to know, Betty.
That might help her sales.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. I was going to mention that in the interest of being completely honest with you, detectives, DIs, inspectors.
And constable.
And constable, sorry.
Yes, let's not forget our constable.
Of course, no, yes, I have to confess that yesterday I tried feeding the gorillas, and I fed them chalk ices, not to do them any harm, just because, well, I thought if they were fed and they were full, then there would be nothing for people to see when Louise announced over the tannoy that it was feeding time, and people would go and then come back for an ice cream. What I didn't bank on was that the gorillas didn't eat the chalk ice wrappers. So I had to go into the enclosure and try and gather up any evidence of the chalk ices. But when I was in there, I saw Louise coming. So I had to get out of there as quickly as I can. So I left some wrappers in there and a full chalk ice as well that was by this gorilla that looked a bit funny, but I thought it might have been a new gorilla, but I just realized that maybe I hadn't noticed it before. Anyway, so there was also an entire chalk ice left in there.
That explains the melted one that we saw. Okay. Well, I do appreciate your honesty, Betty, on that one. I'll be honest, it makes you look dodgy as hell. But I appreciate the honesty. And you, obviously, by the sounds of it, that was to confirm, that was the last time you saw Louise alive. That was when you were sneaking around trying to hide the evidence.
I saw her just a little bit after that, when I saw her having an argument, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saw, yeah.
Just to check, who was that argument with?
It was with Erica. I'm sorry, Erica. I'm sorry, but it was.
That's interesting to know. I'll tell you what, we'll cover that argument in a bit when we speak to Erica Jolton. But for now, I think that's all we need from yourself, Betty. So everyone at home, I can see you're putting your questions in already. So let's go over to our guest detectives, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. Any questions for Betty Cornley?
Betty, did you often go round to all the zookeepers, the various parts of the zoo, and deliver ice creams to them? Or was it just a case of when they wanted one, they came to you, to your little square of land?
When they wanted one, they came to me, yeah. It was always a case of that. In fact, to be honest, in the summer, most of the queue was made up of the workers. Usually, I'm so busy that I don't really have time to go around to all the keepers.
This is the first time you've been into an animal enclosure, is it? See the gorillas?
It is the first time, yes.
How often did the rest of the suspects buy your ice creams?
Oh gosh. Well, Erica fairly often. She's a fan of a strawberry ice cream, which you might guess from sort of when you have a chat with her. She's a strawberry lady. So that's, yeah, and she likes a strawberry sometimes with a bit of strawberry sauce. Like, that's how much she loves it. Yeah, Sebastian, every so often when I saw him, he would come over to my cart, and even in costume, to buy an ice cream, but fully committing to roll as if he wasn't there. But obviously with Michael, never saw him.
That's understandable. How long have you known the deceased, Louise?
Since she started at the zoo, so 3 years now.
And in the 3 years that you've known her, it hasn't come up at all that gorillas can't eat ice cream or chuck ices?
Well, to be honest, that was never really a topic of conversation before us. I thought that chuck ices, they're a good starter ice cream. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're not really into ice cream, they're quite a gentle in.
So it's like a gateway ice cream.
Exactly. So I thought for the gorillas, nice, get in there. And well, and they did actually like them. I think they ate them. They just didn't eat the wrappers.
I can confirm I ate them very quickly.
Yeah, was a surprise because those wrappers were biodegradable. Do you know what I mean? I thought they'd just munch them up.
Thank you. Just one other thing before I pass you over to the constable. Have you had any offers, or has the zoo approached you about taking over that square of land that your family's owned for so long?
Well, me personally, no, but I know that my father, they did approach my father to take over that patch of land, but it's never been a massive problem, really. But they did approach him, yeah, of course, but actually it's not been a problem.
No plans to expand the gorilla enclosure at all into your area?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I hope not. No.
Sorry if I worried you unnecessarily there.
No, it's all right. Don't worry.
No, I mean, I would confirm that, as far as I'm concerned, whilst I'm sitting here in this swivel chair, there'll always be a Betty at the heart of my enterprise.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
How did you get into the gorilla enclosure?
Well, I have been watching. I've been watching closely when Louise has been going into the enclosure.
You better not be watching Louise closely.
Yes.
Sorry, carry on,
Sebastian,
Betty.
you're not the only one that can watch Louise sometimes, but at least mine's from a safe distance. But no, yeah, I've been watching her and how she got in, and I used her pass.
Okay.
Have you ever seen any of the other suspects that we have here on the other side of the enclosure bars? Or glass?
No, never.
Nobody else behind the scenes with you or Louise or?
No.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Inspector, I think.
Okay, no further questions. Lovely. Let's move on to the comments at home. So let's start with a question from Anne. Just Anne, like Prince or Beyonce. So Anne, and what I'd like to know, why did the gorilla look funny?
It didn't look like the other gorillas, and
Just looked different.
yeah, it just looked different. It looked sort of smaller, and
So it was like the ugly duckling of gorillas.
yeah, it was smaller, and it was sort of shaking as well. So I don't know, it just looked a bit. It looked out of place. Didn't look like. But to be honest, I had to I clocked it, and then I had to run because I didn't want Louise to realise I was in there.
Okay. Jack Rousseau would like to know how many times you fed ice cream to the gorillas. This was the first time, if I'm correct.
This was the first, only time, and the last time.
Okay. Let's have a look. So Keisha Hardu. Oh, this again is what was weird about the gorilla. Ian Sanchi would like to know: did Betty's grandparents have a relationship with Michael's grandparents? I don't. I don't know if you meant as a business. Sorry, Michael. So did you mean in terms of sort of a business relationship, or were they swingers? I'm a little bit lost on that. Sorry, Betty.
I guess on a business front, actually, my great granddad worked for the previous owner of the land, which is how he obtained that patch of land.
And actually, they had even more contact than us, Betty, because my great granddad, he was gluten intolerant. So as long as you're not selling bread, he's all right.
There you go. Another. He wasn't a bread seller, so there you go.
No, perfect.
Michael Corcoran's taking another stab in the dark. Did you kill her, mate?
No, did I kill her, mate?
I'm reading it verbatim on that one. Subtlety of a brick.
No. Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Okay, so more questions about how you got into the gorilla enclosure, but again, that's a similar vein. We've had it covered. Brittany Harris would like to know, Betty and Michael, do you have a thing? ...
Well, no, I'm lactose intolerant, so...
Yeah, and to be honest, it would be really difficult for me to go out with someone that couldn't eat ice cream.
But I suppose you could stock Mr. Freeze.
I've thought about getting some sorbet in, but...
Okay, well...
Yes. A few people are asking Louise for clarification about Louise's pass. Francis Baker and Kim would like to know, how did you get Louise's pass?
I got it from the staff room.
Just pilfered it from her. Rachel M would like is a question from myself. If a tranquilizer gun was found and if there were any unusual fingerprints on them, the answer is no and no. We haven't found a tranquilizer gun at all. I mean, for example, again, it might have been a gun. Someone could have stabbed it in, or it could have gone into a Louise's system another way, and that could have been a full different matter about the puncture wound. It could just be irrelevant. Question from Brittany Harris was asking about if Louise didn't notice the wrappers in the cage. I'm guessing she didn't, Betty.
Honestly, I don't know, because I left some wrappers there, but I had to get out of there. I did not hang around to see what Louise's reaction was to these wrappers. I just had to get out of there. I had to get out of there because I had to sort of make it look as though she dropped her pass or something like that. I just had to run.
Okay, so there's a question from Melissa Hovell asked how Betty wasn't attacked by the gorillas when she went into the enclosure. The answer is they were asleep. That's the whole point of it. So if Betty Mike Laney would like to know if Betty stole Louise's pass, how did Louise get into the cage?
Louise, after me, was coming in. I saw her coming towards the enclosure. She wasn't in the enclosure when I saw her.
So hang on, did you steal the pass or not? So I thought you said she was trying. So she was trying to wake up. I'm lost, Betty.
Yeah, so I did steal her pass from the staff room. I used it to get into the gorilla enclosure, and then when I saw Louise not in the enclosure but coming towards the enclosure, I left the enclosure very quickly and through Louise's pass so that she would see it, hopefully, and think that she just dropped it. To be honest with you,
yes,
this was around the time that she was having an argument or about to have an argument with Erica, so I had to leave at that point, and it was good timing for me that she was having that argument.
Yes,
because...
let's move on to another question before we lose you off the video screen from the hole you've just dug yourself there, Betty. So a question here from there's more questions about the past. It says Michael. There's a question from Michael. We'll cover any questions you have for the other suspects. We're just focusing on Betty at the moment. So Chris Burgess would like to know if you drugged the chalk ices with tranquilizers.
No. Why would I do that to a fine piece of milk product?
To knock them out, by the sounds of it.
No. Absolutely not.
Okay. And finally, before we move on to our final suspect, so from Emil Lomax, is there any reason for the hat, Betty?
Oh, it's part of my uniform.
For indoors.
Indoors, outdoors. Cornley equals colours. Cornley's cart.
There you are. We've got free advertising off the back of a murder investigation. That's good. So I think that's all for now. As a side note, as you can see at the moment in your screens, detectives at home, we have got our own ice cream sundae jar. As we don't have Louise to feed them, any donations which you can finally spare this evening will not only be split between the performers tonight, it also is an opportunity to fill up the ice cream sundae with bananas, as the gorillas still need feeding once they eventually wake up. But for now, let's move on to our final suspect. You've only got one option, I'm afraid, but just for clarity, D.I. Harris and Constable Keenan, who would you like to question?
With all apologies for leaving you till last, Erica, we will talk to Erica Jolton, please.
Okay, lovely. I would say you've saved the best till last, but be ready to be bored to death. So let's move on to Erica Jolton. Now, I'm going to regret this, but if you'd be so kind to explain a little more about yourself. We spoke earlier on, and I say we spoke, you just spoke. I'm not keen on bugs. You're some sort of bug lady thing, aren't you?
Excuse me. Can I stop you right there, Investigator? Jonathan Rutherford. I think I got your name correctly. Thank you very much. Excuse me 2 seconds. Oh, beautiful. Slightly tepid, that's how I like it. I'm actually a highly skilled lepidopterist, not just some sort of bug lady that you say. No, I've been running the Moth House for the last 8 years, and with quite a lot of pride. It is one of the staples of Mothely Zoo. Thank you very much.
Erica, I'm sorry to stop you there. You're a lovely girl, and we're friends. We're both into Pilates. We're on the same wavelength, but let's be fair here. It may be, in your mind, a staple of the zoo, but it's not. The Moth House is not the most popular part of the zoo, is it? Okay, I'll stop. I've got the figures right here. Look at this. There's a bar chart here with numbers on it. And I don't know a lot about numbers or bar charts or animals or zoos, but I can tell you that when we invited pantomime favourite Linda Lusardi to the zoo, she had no interest in the moths. And she was not on her own in that, was she?
Really?
Nobody comes.
Sorry, Erica.
There's furry butterflies.
Erica, and Michael, be quiet. Erica, I will give you a chance to rebuttal on that. However, for all of the guests playing at home, at the moment, keep it just to questions. Don't put your theories into the comment section because it ruins the fun for everyone else. Don't put your theories or conclusions in the comment section just yet, okay? Because one, you might be completely wrong and you're going to look a bit silly afterwards. Back to Erica, you were saying.
Actually, I'm going to keep disputing this with the board, Michelle. Yes, of course I will. Thank you very much. Actually, I actually do know the attendance figures, and it was 95. 95%. But still, I will dispute this with the board. Moths are essential creatures, and they're also vital to the ecosystem. And besides, what is Mothely Zoo without moths? It's just le zoo. Ridiculous.
So it's just French.
Yes, indeed. And we're in the middle of the United Kingdom zoo. It wouldn't work if it was Lee Zoo. Look, I'm quite sick of the board putting everything out on all the numbers before the moths. There's been a lot of strains on my moths lately. Inspector, even this morning, I went into the enclosure, and you see there's a door that backs into the gorilla enclosure. Please don't ask. It's dreadful planning, and it was all sort of smashed in, etc. And it could have. If the gorillas decided to go walkabouts, then that would have put all of the moths and all of our hard work that I've done over the last 8 years in all this peril. Why would you do something like that?
Well, I didn't do it, but I didn't do it, so actually I need to ask.
You?
I know, not me. Oh my word. Okay, yes, all right. So in terms of this, I didn't see the damage this morning. What had happened? Did you say it was from the door that went from the gorilla enclosure to the moth house?
Yes. Well, between you and I and all these other people listening in, a few years back, the board decided to convert part of the moth house into a medical supply cupboard, with sort of stitches and paracetamol, with wrapped in leaves for the drafts, all the essentials as such. And the thing is, it caused a lot of stress to the moths. I tried my best to try and make the smaller enclosure better for them, but they are still animals and they still need to flap free, Inspector. Now, due to poor planning, it actually turns out that the back of the moth house backs into the gorilla enclosure. And when I went in this morning, the door was smashed in. I mean, it seems to have been completely broken. It might have been actually one of the vets having a cheeky cigarette round the back. And then they realised they were in the gorilla enclosure, panicked, and then smashed that door in. But still, I think it's unacceptable.
Yes.
Don't you?
Well, someone,
Animal
a vet,
cruelty.
yes, well, a vet having a cigarette in a gorilla enclosure is not the wisest decision. But let's go back to the matter in hand. When did you last see Louise alive?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I saw her, at 3 p.m. So we sort of went to go and convince her that, the expansion that they wanted to put into the gorilla closure shouldn't really demolish the moth enclosure. They should perhaps build it around the moth enclosure, you see. So towards the car park or something. It would help with the eco-climate, etc. Not let as many cars in. People could car share. And yes, it was all very, very well to do.
Yes. And you say this was a casual discussion because I believe Betty mentioned something about that earlier. Sorry, Betty.
No, it's all right. It was a bit more than that, wasn't it, Erica? Come on, just admit it. It's, like we've lost a lady here. We need to be honest about these things. You were flapping your arms about like some sort of distressed butterfly, and you were really going.
How dare you calling them butterflies?
No,
the actual peril.
You were like a distressed butterfly, Erica.
Well, I would have been a distressed moth because that was what I was doing. If you got any closer, rather than, I was just waving my hands about and shouting loudly to demonstrate, you see, Inspector, how distressed the moths would be if we took them out of their natural habitat from the last 8 years of demolishing everything.
Erica, you were shouting, and you were shouting at Louise that she was in for a big surprise tomorrow, and I do not think you meant a Knickerbocker glory.
Yeah, I can back you up on this. She seemed very angry with Louise. She was lucky, to be honest, that nobody has reported Erica to HR before now. And if you need help, Erica, finding HR, they're in the porter cabin behind the gents' loos near the reptiles.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Well, what were you actually? Okay, Erica, I'll give you a chance to defend yourself. What were you actually talking about then with this big surprise tomorrow?
Well, it was meant to be a surprise, but you've all ruined it now.
Well,
look,
I think Louise being murdered probably ruined your surprise there.
Yes, it probably isn't very good either, honestly. No, obviously never wanted her to die, etc. But look, I told Louise that I was planning a big moth protest against the gorillas.
Yes.
And I warned her, and I said, that is what I will do if you don't go to the board. You see, Inspector, I had a plan. Would you like to hear it? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you about it.
Right,
you see,
yes.
I had a plan that the gorilla would come on stage, and then the moths, in all their glory, all 30 of them, would just flurry, and then it would surround the gorilla in all of its glory, and then that would be the demonstration over. And then they'd have to consider, and everybody would be in awe. You see, I even did a dummy run, with sort of like all of the moths. I actually happened to find one of the gorilla sort of, a mask and stuff, and put it on. But you see, the moths, they were having none of it, especially not the sunset moths, or the Atlas moth, very intelligent creatures.
Boring.
And besides, Louise, she wasn't even
Inspector,
listening
do
to
we
me.
have to listen to her?
She was literally too busy taking care of all of the, the gorillas, because they'd all happened to fallen asleep, apart from one who was just looking behind a bush, looked very scared, very confused, bemused, amused, and so I would be if all of my friends had sort of fallen asleep as well. Anyway, I'm sure it didn't do any harm at all, and besides, I think I got my point across, and then I decided to calm down and have a nice cup of tea.
Okay. Right.
Would you like me to explain that again, Inspector?
Dear Lord, no, Miss Jolton.
Oh.
So, just to clarify then,
Yes.
so you were planning a moth protest and it backfired.
Yes.
I've just got one question before I pass it over to the guest detectives. So you have a moth house that's been standing there since the foundation of Mothely Zoo, correct?
Yes, since the 1940s, since Lord Mothley said that it was going to be a staple.
Yes.
Lots and lots of people have gone to do it, and
Yes.
over the last 8 years,
Yes.
have transformed
Yes, that's
it.
not what I'm talking about. I just want to know, for the fact that you have something that's been there for a century, why you have 38 moths.
Oh, I actually said 30 moths.
Oh, you've lost 8 in the analogy. You only have 30 moths.
Yes, well, they're quite difficult, you see. If people kept on,
just like the
kept on
roller.
leaving,
Right,
if kept on leaving the door open, then they
no,
wouldn't fly.
Not having this. There we are. That's much better, isn't it? So what I'm going to do, quite basically, is I'm just going to try and control it.
I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. Oh, you're letting me speak now, are you?
No, I'm not. So I'm going to pass this over to D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. Erica, we're going to put you on a timeout until you can answer the questions, and please keep it brief. I don't want to be here until Christmas. So anyone at home, put your questions in the comments now. And so D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan, any questions for Erica Jolton?
You said you found a gorilla mask. Where was this located?
There we are. I've unmuted her.
Oh, am I allowed to talk now?
If you're quiet, then yes.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, if you're short and brief, that's what we go for.
Storage container in Moth House. Container
Less
filled
brief.
with-
Less brief.
Oh, I'm not sorry. I'm not sure. I've never had to be under investigation before. I apologise, constables and inspectors and detectives. No, you see, it was in the container, which was in my section of the Moth House, which is the medical cupboard. It was full to the brim of all the gorilla masks. There was lots of them. However, I do think it must have been one of those promotional things that the children do nowadays to sort of get the promotional thing up for the big gorilla unveil. There's lots of them. That's very exciting. Yes.
Had you seen any of the other suspects go in and out of that area?
No, not really. I mean, I'm usually in the dark with my moths, you see. Yes, I mean, there has been the medics, but, you know, as the inspector has already said, he's already questioned, etc., everybody, and I haven't seen them within the last couple of days. But, you know, the medical, the medical room is something that all the medics would go into. Yes.
And would they keep tranquilizers in the medical cupboard at the back of your moth house?
Oh, I wouldn't know too much. There's a lot in there, and unfortunately we lost Jeff a couple of months back, and it was rather distressing. So I try not to go in there. It causes me to have a bit of flashbacks. Yes.
Am I going to be the only person to ask who's Jeff?
Who's Jeff?
Yes, I'm going to ask.
Who's Jeff? Jeff is our gypsy moth that we've had for the last sort of like 8 months. You know, most moths actually only last up to a
I'm going to
year.
regret asking
But-
this, aren't I?
But some of them, the gypsy moth is. Oh.
So hang on. So you haven't gone into the supply cupboard in mourning of Jeff the Moth?
Yes.
She did love that moth.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
sorry.
You. It was a lot.
D.I. Harris and Constable Keenan, any additional questions?
I don't think so.
Just one thing before we do to hand it over.
Yes,
Inspector,
of course.
If I may. Erica, you say that the door was smashed in between the moth house and the gorilla enclosure. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Could you identify which side it was smashed in from? Was it someone trying to get out of the moth house?
Oh,
Maybe the Hawks or,
I mean,
gorilla trying to get in?
Well, you said it was
Oh.
someone trying. You said it might have been one of the vets, so it must have been smashed in, correct?
I would have thought it was smashed in. The whole thing was just ricocheted. I panicked a little bit. I thought it was a bit too much for me. It takes a lot for me to go into that part of the house.
Because
now.
of Jeff.
Yes, because of Jeff, the gypsy moth. May he rest in peace.
Okay.
Thank you.
No
You're
problem.
welcome.
Let's move on to the comment section here.
Ooh,
Let's take
exciting.
Some questions again, Erica.
Yes.
Keep it brief. Try and behave yourself. So, Erica, where did you get? So it was a question from Sherlock Armour. It was about the gorilla mask, but I think that's been covered. Did you have access to a full costume in there?
Oh, well, most probably, but I could only find the mask. I thought
Yes.
it would be a little bit more petrifying for the moths if I put on a full mask. And also, it's fairly hot in there because we don't have any windows.
Yes.
And I tend to sweat.
Okay. You tend to sweat. Ooh.
Well, yeah, no, as you would do if you're in there sort of, 8 hours a day with all of them. And there isn't a lot of light because,
Yes.
as we know with moths.
Okay. A question from Helena SF. Would like to know if Louise killed Jeff.
Oh, no. Well, I haven't thought of that. I mean, one day I just went in and the door was open and Jeff escaped. And yes, yes, one of his antennae was... It's very distressing for the moths, and we don't like to talk about it.
Okay. So let's move on. So, Erica, do you have any poisonous moths?
Oh, well, I'm very glad that you asked because...
I'm not. Yes, carry
Well,
on.
well, we did have a poisonous moth. You see, now the thing is, inspectors all across the world, you see, moths only usually last a year, so we have to keep on sort of getting them in. But there is the Calyptra, which is well known as the vampire moth. Oh yes, it sucks human blood, not poisonous, but it will have a bit of a nasty bite.
Yes, I'm glad
yes.
you're laughing at it.
Yes, we had one or two of those, but they've been going missing. This is people opening up the doors, etc., when they
Yes.
shouldn't be. And this is why I was trying to demonstrate to the board that we shouldn't have a medical cupboard next to the moth house, and which is next to the gorilla house. It's
Yes.
animal cruelty.
Okay, let's have a look. I think it's more. I'm sure at least 5 of you at home will get this because I don't. David Mears is a moth enthusiast. Erica, do you love lamp?
Oh, I like that. Do I love the lamps? Now, this is a common misconception. Is that
Look what you've
David?
started. Yes, that
No,
is.
okay, look, David, can I just talk to you about something? I'm sorry, everybody else has heard of this before because I have to explain this. You see, the thing is, a lot of people think that moths are is this technology working, Inspector? Because
Well, I haven't
trying
muted you
very
yet, but I'm
hard.
seriously deliberating it.
No, I mean, no, because it's
No,
very
I'll
important
save you time.
to
Do you
get
like
this.
lamps or not? Do you like lamps or not?
No, this is a common misconception.
There you are. She doesn't like lamps.
No, this is a
So
common
let's move
misconception that
swiftly on.
actually.
There we are. So swiftly moving on. So there was a question about Brittany Harris would like to know about a vampire moth that could have. I'll just quickly unmute her.
And that is how you can sometimes get, the moth to the flip. Was anybody listening?
Well, there you are. Obviously, we were all listening intently to that.
Oh, yes,
Brittany Harris
moth
would
to
like
the
to know.
flame.
Brittany Harris would like to know if a vampire moth could have bitten Louise.
Oh, cheers. Well, no. Well, this is the thing. I mean, the Calyptra moth could have definitely have done that, but we don't actually have any of those in a stock, as it were.
There we are. They're not
quite
in the
yet.
clan of 30. Ollie Lomax would like to know if Louise ever insulted the moths. Yes or no?
Well, yeah, pretty much everybody insults the moths
Yes, I
because
can-
they're not the flutterbys, are they?
There we are. So a question to all. I'll tell you what, this is quite a good one actually. I'm going to start with. So from Francis Baker would like to know if anyone has injuries to their hands. In brackets, thinking about the smashed window. Erica, are your hands? It's just everyone quickly show me your hands like this. There we are. No one seems to. Yes, we are aware you know what a gorilla is like, Mr. Mothley. So there we are. No one seems to have injuries to their hands. And just to check, everyone. The question was about if anyone had access to the store cupboard. I had a quick look. Just from the inside. I've been to the moth house before. You pretty much as a member of the public, you could walk into it. It's not very well maintained. Sorry, Erica. Yes.
No, I have nothing to say.
Yes.
I
That's a first. Because it's also in vain. Sweet as Candy Floss says, stop muting a suspect. She could have good information. Trust me.
Thank you.
Trust me.
Thank you.
No.
This is the thing. It's
No,
all about navigation and the moon. So
No, she doesn't. I've made that quite clear on this one. We're not trying to solve a murder here. We're getting a very impromptu lecture. So let's instead, I think we're going to open it down now to everyone. So this is your chance. I'll just quickly unmute her. Yes. So this is the chance for D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan, and for everyone at home. This is free game. So for a couple of minutes, it's any questions you need for clarification from any of the suspects. So we'll check with our guest detectives any questions they have before going over to yourselves at home. And suspects, please keep your answers brief. Erica, I'm looking at you. So Constable Kiernan and D.I. Harris, do you have any questions for any of the suspects?
How many of you suspects knew that the gorilla masks were in that cupboard?
me.
I would have liked one.
There we
I
are.
was under the impression you already had one, Sebastian.
Many years ago. I don't have one now.
I didn't know.
No, I'm quite hands off. I have a saying. I say, look after the animals look after themselves. Well, they don't. You employ people to look after them, but I don't get involved, is what I'm saying. So no is the answer to that.
To be honest as well, inspectors, I don't even know where it came from. It disappeared one day as I was looking to my plan of the,
Michael, if I might come back to you again, we've talked about relationships between suspects, but I don't remember you clarifying if you had a relationship with any of the other suspects.
None of these suspects here right now, although I am having a sexual relationship with one of the cleaners at the moment.
Yes, we'll deal with that with HR afterwards. Yeah, any additional questions?
Sebastian, we haven't heard from you for a while, I'm afraid. The headline that you would have written about the disappearing gorilla, would that have been better for you than the fact that the gorilla had actually arrived?
Well, see, we have lengthy meetings about what would be the best headline. Off the top of my head, sleeping like this is why we have long meetings about it. It takes me hours to get one of these
To come
headlines.
up with kids on Rhino.
Look, we have lengthy meetings about it. We'd have some back and forths. I'll take my job seriously, Inspector. I don't know about you.
I'm glad you do, because no one else does. Any other questions, D.I.
My favourite was Tequila Mockingbird. Do you remember that one,
Oh,
Sebastian?
that was
Michael
a
Sebastian.
good one.
Michael Sebastian, please, let's go back to our guest detectives.
Betty said she saw a funny-looking gorilla
Shaking.
Did anyone else see it?
Well, apart from me seeing the gorilla that wasn't sleeping or passed out than the other gorillas, but it might have just been that, it was just a naughty gorilla, because gorillas don't follow suit. Not like moths. No.
Like gorilla suits.
I'll just interject here. After I saw all of the gorillas pass out, wrote a few notes and dashed off to the office, because that is gold, I'll tell you that much. Having all of these gorillas falling asleep left, right, and centre, that was straight to the office. I was never going to miss an opportunity like that.
Thank you.
Would you like me to turn over to the detectives at home?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, lovely. Let's have a scroll up. Terry Botter, by the sounds of it, you're getting rather annoyed. I haven't been asking your questions, so I'm going to quickly. I spotted that you had one about Sebastian for clarification about when he last saw Louise. Now, Sebastian, when did you claim to last see Louise again?
It was a couple of nights ago when I serenaded her with a song. I've got the lyrics here if you want to hear it.
Okay.
Ooh, yes.
No. Oh, sorry, did I give you false hope there? No, I don't wish to hear that. So, remember, I can work the mute this week. So, a question from Gary Smith to Michael. Where were you between 3 and 6 on the day?
Oh, well, I think I was in my office. I've managed to work out how to do new functions on Microsoft Excel. I can take a whole column of data and reverse it into a neutral. And
so you were doing office work.
And what you do is, if you know how to do then it will apply.
Yeah, just say yes. You were doing office work.
I'm quite good with Microsoft Excel.
Okay, good for you. Mike Wood would like to know, Betty, were any of your ice creams tampered with, to your knowledge?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
No, and I would know.
Okay, another question from Science Stevens to Betty. Did you see Sebastian when you were feeding the gorillas the chalk ices?
I didn't see him, actually.
No, but...
I did see him that day, but I didn't see him when I was feeding the chalk ices.
Okay. A question from Andrew Harrison for everyone. It's not really relevant to the investigation, but we're just doing a bit of casual networking. Just for an icebreaker, what's everyone drinking at the moment? Erica, what are you drinking?
Oh, well, as I did say, tepid tea, but it seems to have run out.
Tepid tea? Tepid tea, that'll do. Betty, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking milkshake.
Milkshake. Michael, what are you drinking?
On advice of HR, I'm on chamomile tea.
There we are. Sebastian, what are you drinking?
A mixture of things, or whatever's in the cupboard, really.
Whatever's in the cupboard. Apparently he's drinking Bovril. D.I. Harris, Constable Kiernan, what are you drinking?
Good old Devon cider.
There we are.
And obviously Constable Kiernan's on water.
There we are, well behaved. And just a final one, Andrew Harrison, I'm not telling you. Okay, Sean Eyton would ask to know where did Betty go after leaving the enclosure? So last night, did you just go straight home?
I went back to my ice cream cart so I could pack up.
Okay, so you packed up, then went home.
Yeah, I packed. So at 6 o'clock I went home, but after I left the enclosure and after I'd seen this big row, I had to go back to my ice cream cart, pack up, get out of there.
Okay. The question from Brittany Harris was, who was the last to see her? The answer is we don't know. Only Louise would have the answer, and to be honest, that would be rather difficult to find out at the moment, given the circumstances. She's dead. Okay, you and Bagsh... Oh, no, I'm not going to ask that. That's about the moth lady.
What was that? What did Ewan say?
He just wants to know. I'm going to let you answer, and just purely the name of it. What's your favourite moth? No more, no less.
Oh, my favourite moth is actually right here. It's called the Madagascan sunset moth.
There you
The thing
go,
is,
yeah.
a lot of people think it's like a
Right.
butterfly,
No,
but
stop
it
it.
actually
You're
is
going on a
not. It's a moth. We used to have this
Right,
6
you're
years
going on
ago.
a
It was
timeout. Stop
absolutely
it.
beautiful.
Right, moving on. So, Test G, did any of the suspects buy any chalk ices from Betty on the day of the murder? Interesting word there. So, Erica, did you buy a chalk ice from Betty yesterday?
No, I had my strawberry.
Michael, did you buy one?
Not likely, otherwise it'd be me that was dead.
There we are. And then, Sebastian, did you buy one?
I do like a knobbly bobbly.
Well, that's not a chalk ice.
I am pleased to hear that, Sebastian.
Okay, it's ascending down the gutter at this point. Okay, let's have a look at a couple one. You and Bagsh was just proposing a seance. No, we can't afford the fire hazard of the candles. So, Michael, question from Michael. Did Louise ever catch you in the act with the cleaner?
What?
This cleaner that you admitted having it off with, which I'm guessing might potentially be Brian, the cleaner that now the gorilla might have taken a liking to. Did you ever get caught by Louise with this cleaner?
No, and even if I had last week when Louise was around, it was a different cleaner than it is. It started up this morning.
Okay, so she didn't see.
A
Okay.
new cleaner today.
Okay. From Ed Hawks and Vivian Gold. Thank you, as a side note, Michael, for admitting that you've been having it off with quite a few cleaners, though. Ed Hawks and Vivian Gold, how much...
I'm hands off.
Yes, well, hands on by the sounds of it to HR. So how much of a wound would the bite create from the dangerous moth that Erica mentioned? So the most dangerous moth you have in the moth house, how big a wound? Or would it create some form of a puncture wound?
You mean the Calyptra, the vampire moth? You see, now, as
No,
I did
the answer
say...
is yes or no. The answer is yes or no. Is it as
well,
big as a
it
puncture
would-
wound?
Well, it depends how big the puncture wound is.
A small, like a needle, for example. Is it bigger or smaller
Well, how
than a
big is
needle?
the needle? How big is the needle?
Needle size.
Yes, but you can have small needles and big needles.
Okay.
You have to be specific with things like this, Inspector.
This is why Linda Lusardi didn't want to visit the moth house. It's
Okay.
just too...
I have colouring in and everything, you know.
Okay.
It's a good place.
Erica, okay, we'll just keep this...
It would create a very small puncture wound because that is how vampires draw blood.
Yeah, but it...
However, I don't think it would suck the blood out of a living person. You see, a moth, especially the Calyptra, is about that big.
Yes.
And humans are, well, a lot bigger than me.
Would it create one or two? If it was a vampire, would it create just... I don't know how moths work. One or two?
Maybe two.
Two. There we are. Okay. Mike Wood again would like to know if we know what caused the puncture wound in that vein. We don't know. Flying Flusky would like to know if there was a footprint in the melted chalk ice. The answer is no, nor was it smudged against the floor. Ollie Lomax would like to know if our guest detectives are single.
No. Complicated.
Oh, right.
Complicated. Well, that's an investigation for another day, there, isn't it?
Me too.
Okay.
It's always complicated.
Yes. So let's see. Jungle Place would like to know, Michael, do you have a gambling problem? Yes or no?
No problem at all. No, I gamble a lot of money and regularly lose large amounts.
But it's no problem to you.
No, not at all. No, I'm absolutely loaded.
Okay. David Henshaw would like just clarification what time Betty went into the enclosure.
Oh, to collect the wrappers.
Yes.
About
What time did you say it was again?
It was about 2:30. 2:30.
2:30. Okay. So let's have a look. I'm just going to ask this final question, these last questions that I've seen come in, and then we're going to check with our guest detectives before that's your lot, I'm afraid. So these final questions from detectives at home. Okay, Eileen Sable, Sebastian, did Michael or Louise ask you to dress up to replace Alpro, the guest gorilla? Have you ever... Right, did Michael ask you to dress up as a gorilla, Sebastian? Yes or no? Why is there a delay on this? Yes or no? Sebastian? Have we broken him or something? What is going on? Sebastian! Sebastian? Can you just say yes or... I'd save your time. I'll go with no on that one. I wrote the thing. Okay. There's another question for Sebastian, but I'm going to really regret asking that as well, aren't I? Sebastian, have you ever set up a fake story to sell papers?
No, never.
Oh, you got
we
an
have long
answer for
meetings
that
about
one? You got an answer for that one. That's convenient, isn't it? The useful one you can't be bothered with. Okay. I think that's everything from the detectives at home. Thank you, and sorry you had to witness whatever that was in the bottom left corner. You're a professional, Sebastian. Stop it. Okay, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. Do you have any questions at all?
I think we just need to check that nobody wants to actually volunteer themselves to us as the murderer.
Be very anticlimactic if they said yes.
No, absolutely not. Of course not. I'm not a killer.
What cause are we volunteering for?
Murdering Louise.
No, of course not. Lovely woman. Priority's wrong, but lovely woman. Yes.
Okay.
Very nice try. I admire that. I want you to know we've got a very good YTS scheme here at the zoo, and I'm looking for good people like you. So you get in touch anytime you like. You say my name, and you're in.
Okay.
Michael.
Could I just ask who each suspect thinks it could have been that murdered Louise?
Oh, you're really clutching at straws there. But okay, let's shoot the shallow fish in the barrel. Okay, Erica, let's just give names on this one. So, Erica, who do you think did it? Don't know?
I don't know.
There we are. Betty, who do you think did it or don't know?
I don't know.
Michael, who do you think did it or don't know?
Sebastian. He's obsessed and his horoscopes never come true.
Okay, Sebastian, please answer this question. Who do you think did it? Yes or no? I don't know as well as acceptable.
Well, I'll reckon it's Betty, purely because I saw her throw the chalk ices in. Gorilla's collapsed. Mm-hmm. She collapsed.
Okay, because of the chalk ice fiasco you're leaning towards. I'm gonna give you one last question out of courtesy. One last question in the investigation, so use it wisely. D.I. Harris or Constable Keenan, do you have one final question for? It could be for all of them, or could be for just one, or for me.
Just for Sebastian, if we can get his attention.
Good luck.
Where was he when he saw Betty in the enclosure? And what was he doing?
I was I was taking pictures just before they were meant to do the photo shoot. And yeah, I saw her throw him in, and then I went off to write the story.
There we are. I'm afraid that's your lot. So, D.I. Harris and Constable Keenan, and for all of our super sleuthers playing at home, that's the end of the investigation, so it's time for your conclusions. I'm looking for who you believe killed Louise Bartlett and why. Who killed Louise and why? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes on this one as we go to break. So start putting your conclusions into the chat box now. I'm going to save you a tiny bit of time on this. It is not me, and it's not suicide. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, hello again, detectives. Thank you very much for all of your conclusions on that one, as a very nice mix this week as well. So I said I'm looking for who you believe killed Louise Bartlett and why. So just to check, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan, do you have a conclusion?
Yes.
We do.
You do? Oh, that
You know
sounded
we
very confident there. Would you like... I'm going to give you, out of courtesy, as I've done this for guest detectives before, would you like me to go to some of the conclusions at home first? Or do you think, are you pretty certain
I think
on
our
it?
audience at home certainly need to have their opinions.
Oh,
before we correct.
that definitely sounds like you've heard me say if it's better than yours, you can nick it. You've definitely heard me say that before then. Okay, so I'm going to quickly skim through these as quick as I can on that one. So I'm going to start with, there's a lot coming in. So jungle. I'm trying to see where it all starts. Emily Lomax, Michael, he was in a gorilla suit and didn't eat the chalk ices because he was lactose intolerant. David Webster, Sebastian found the outfit while Snoopy wanted to surprise Lolly but scared her and she hit her head on a rock. Complete accident. It won't be very anticlimactic. Sean Eyton, it was Michael dressed up as gorilla, while with Betty's help, it was Betty that drugged gorillas. Sweet as Candy Floss, he didn't say it wasn't the guest detective, so I think you two have been nominated just by default there. Jungle Plays. Erica was too jealous of how many people went to the gorillas, so she tried to kill the gorillas, but she needed to kill Louise first so more people would see the moth, so she would get paid more money. Simon Goldberger, again, thinks it was Betty by drugging the chalk ices. Pro game player says that I did it. That's a weird confession, so whoever actually did it, someone will go down for you. Wolf Ladors, Erica wanted to keep the moth house as the main attraction. Broke into the gorilla enclosure and whacked her / released the deadly moth. Jack Rousseau again, Michael in the gorilla suit. Let's keep going. Ed thinks it's Erica. Ed Hawks thinks Erica did it, and Viv thinks it was Michael dressed up as gorilla. Sophie Lewis Thomas says, "Hey Ollie," 2 laughing emojis. Hi Ollie, hope whatever it is rather amusing to you. Christine Horn, Michael, he's so stupid, Louise was trying to get him off the board. Andrew Michael, Baby Portway Sebastian was the strange gorilla in the enclosure, but I think Erica did it because she was slowly losing her moth enclosure to the gorillas, so she thinks that strange gorilla was Sebastian just peeping. Delia again, Michael was having a fling with a cleaner. Emma M, Erica, Francis Baker, Michael, Ollie Lomax, Michael. We've got a lot of Michaels. Mojo May and Betty broke in, allowing Erica to pin the blame on her. Okay, well, again, we've got a pretty broad consensus here. I've got a nice. Michael Corcoran, why was the zoo opening lockdown fishy? The answer is, well, if you're looking for fish, that's called an aquarium. And Michael, if you can't figure out that question, you just need to lower your suspension of disbelief for us for a little bit. That would be lovely. So there we are, nice wide mix there. So let's move over to our guest detectives. As said, if it's better than yours, you can nick it. We've got a really interesting consensus of, it could be any of the 4 really. But do you have a joint consensus, or are the 2 of you split?
I think I've told him, my constable, that we've got a joint consensus.
Okay, well you say you've told him. That sounds like you're split, but you've gone, hang on, I'm in charge here, mate.
Well, if it's right, it's obviously mine.
Yes.
And if I've got it wrong, then it's
okay, so we're going for gloating rights on that situation.
Absolutely.
As a side note, Andrew Harrison, Inspector Rutherford, you are great. Yes, I am. Okay, D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan. Who killed Louise Bartlett?
Well, as we know, a couple of our suspects this evening aren't too keen being in the presence of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, somebody in particular has an avid fear of them by their own admission.
Mm-hmm.
But we know there's costumes at large, and we think, although it was probably Michael dressed in the costume, as a lot of our guest detectives or our outside detectives have suggested.
Yes.
We think he's not at fault here. We think he was just trying to get. Thank you. He was just trying to get close to his zoo.
So hang on. So you think that Michael was the strange gorilla, but you think it's not because of the death. He was just trying to get a better feeling to be around the animals.
So pretty much, he didn't actually buy a gorilla. He wasted the money they're supposed to spend on the gorilla gambling, like he said.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when the he decided 3 months later he needed a gorilla to come to the zoo because he promised a male gorilla. So dressed up as one in the suit.
Yes.
In the meantime, the lovely moth lady, Erica.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, who I'd love to hear more about the moth, but we really haven't got time now.
Nor ever.
You say that, Inspector, but it might well be never, because she was losing her moth enclosure to the exciting attraction, which was the gorillas. And so we think the pretend gorilla was seen in the enclosure, but it was actually Erica that did away with the lovely Louise.
Okay. And so you say that so Erica killed Louise, and it's because she was going to lose her moth house.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And Betty and Sebastian not behind anything, just shifty.
Very, very shifty.
Very.
Not involved in this one.
Yes, and as by the looks of it, Sebastian probably hasn't registered that we're talking to him. He's probably just thinking about newspapers. So, thank you very much for your conclusions, guest detectives, and for everyone at home. If you may have spotted, I've been sort of keeping track of these things as we go along, and I'd like to start by recalling the facts of the case again. So we're looking for who was behind the murder of Louise Bartlett, who was discovered dead this morning in the gorilla enclosure, with the time of death predicted around 6 p.m. last night. Thanks to the CCTV being destroyed by a caffeine-fueled drunk parrot last week, we have no footage to assist us in the case. From inspection, Louise had a lethal dose of, had a dose of tranquilizer, quite a strong dose, probably not lethal enough, but it knocked her out and she basically died from the impact from a rock when she collapsed from being injected with tranquilizer or from consuming tranquilizer. There was a small puncture wound on her shoulder, but we can't confirm whether that was the real entry point. Let's go through our suspects in tow. Now, I'm going to make sure he pays attention this time. Sebastian, nod your head.
Yes.
There we are.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'm just checking you are nodding along. And in your head as well, not only have you learnt to nod, but it seems it's filled with rather hopelessly romantic dreams there. But it's clear they were not reciprocated by Louise. So much so, you got yourself banned from the zoo and a restraining order taken out on yourself. It had also been highlighted, however, how Betty had seen yourself, Sebastian, not 2 days ago, in a blonde wig and a beard where you were playing a game of Where's Wally, as you claimed for Louise. But taking into account when the police pulled you away and we looked in your car and it was full of costumes, it's not hard to deduce the fact that you probably were in disguise around the enclosure today, so much so you were even foolish enough to admit that you saw Betty throw the chalk ices in, meaning that you were around the crime scene at the time of death. Especially considering that you were responsible for the parrot that got out destroying the CCTV last week, and that Louise has been rejecting your advances for so long. Maybe this was a rather elaborate plan after all, and with Louise rejecting you so many times, maybe you snapped, and maybe the rule was if you couldn't have her, no one could.
Yes, I was at the zoo yesterday. I can't help myself. As a journalist these days, it's not easy, right? The moment you get a notepad out, everyone's shouting fake news, or you're writing something bad about me. Michael especially, he gets a little bit edgy when it comes to things that I write about him. But of all the people I've ever interviewed, that I've ever had the pleasure of being with, Louise has been so kind, so wonderful with me, and I just wanted to show my love towards her. Okay. Maybe to some people it got a little bit out of hand, and maybe to some people her running away and me shouting "I love you" isn't normal, but to us it is or was. And look, I was at the zoo yesterday. As I say, when the gorillas started falling asleep, I ran straight to the office with all of my notes ready to go. I'd never kill her. I'm devastated she's dead. I've got my Louise pillow. I'm ready to, just cuddle it and sniff it and all of this, just to really make sure. I miss her so much. I can't really quite believe that she's gone.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
Well, I'll let you mourn into your apparatus for a moment. It's relatively disturbing again about the pillow. But let's move on to our next suspect, our resident bug lady, Erica. Now, it's no secret, Erica, that you had some bad blood towards Louise and the gorillas, and pretty much anything who had anything negative to say about the rejected cousin of butterflies, your beloved moths. It had been heard, however, that the new gorilla arriving in the moth house was finally going to demolish. The new gorilla arriving was finally going to demolish the moth house. And Erica, you were planning a counter protest when they unveiled the gorilla. All 30 moths would surround him, which apparently would cover a fully grown gorilla. And when that didn't work, you began pleading, and when I say pleading, by the sounds of it, screaming at Louise in front of people yesterday afternoon. Perhaps when you knew your moths would be ruined, you decided to take action and take revenge on the woman who was responsible for it all. After all, you were telling Louise that she was in for a big surprise tomorrow. Perhaps you were actually implying her unfortunate demise in the morning.
Can I just say, Inspector Rutherford, that's the second time you've called me a bug lady. I'd even prefer to be called a murder suspect, although I am not a murderer one bit. I'm a lepidopterist, and I would appreciate everybody, learning that phrase. It's a highly skilled profession, Inspector. Look, as I have also explained to everybody several times, yes, I had a big surprise, but the big surprise was all of the moths going and surrounding the face of the gorilla. I'm not silly, Inspector. I know 30 moths do not cover a full gorilla. But not only that, my other surprise is that I actually started a petition, that admittedly only, looking at it, it only has one signature on it, mine, because, well, the moths can't sign, and I have the big hands. But the thought was there, and my heart is in the right place. The only thing I would ever want to protect would be life, and so I couldn't be the murderer, Inspector. I made an oath to my job, Brownie Girl Guy, to protect all life forms, and that does include human life forms too. Lots of humans actually do happen to eat moths inside the world, and the caterpillars, and I really appreciate that. So it couldn't be me, Inspector, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next suspect. Let's go for Rainbow Hat. Let's go for Betty, our beloved ice cream seller. An unlikely suspect, as it seems, however, that Louise has been causing you trouble for quite some time there, Betty. Since Louise joined the team at Mothely Zoo, her erratic feeding times have been affecting your business rather badly. So much so, you admitted yesterday you took action. Although you claimed it was just the chalk ices to try and feed them so they would fall asleep. It's rather odd that the time you threw chalk ices in and the gorillas ate them, they all passed out and are still passed out this morning. I think you put something a little bit stronger in there, perhaps sleeping pills or maybe even some form of tranquilizer to ensure that they dozed off. However, it didn't quite go to plan, especially as there was one gorilla who was still awake and didn't eat them, so it probably did have something stronger as they were the only one there. Realising that this gorilla hadn't consumed their chalk ice and all of the wrappers, as you hoped, would be biodegradable and they weren't consumed, you would have been exposed, and you would try to hide the evidence before you were caught by Louise on that one. Perhaps if you were caught, you panicked, used the last of the tranquilizer that you had on Louise. Considering the beloved Cornley cart was a staple at Mothely Zoo, maybe if you couldn't afford to keep it running any longer, you had to take the risk so you would be able to protect it.
I put my hands up, all right? Inspector, I'll put my hands up, and I will say that, yes, I was annoyed at Louise, and yes, all right, I went into the moth house and I got tranquilizers out of the storage cupboard, and I laced the chalk ices with them to feed the gorillas so that I could knock them out for a day. What other choice did I have? Look, Cornley's cart has been at Mothely Zoo for 100 years. That's a century, right?
Yes.
And that is tradition. And I had to do something to try and maintain that tradition. So I thought, with Sebastian and his whole parrot episode, I just go. I knew that I wouldn't be on CCTV, get the tranquilizers, give the gorillas a little nap, and then no one would have anything to watch there. So they'd just come to my ice cream stand and buy all the ice creams. Like, I didn't realize they weren't going to eat the wrappers. Fine. So I had to go back into the enclosure and gather up the evidence as much as I could. But look, I have been completely honest about my sins, nearly, and I'm not a killer. I'm just not. And yes, I tried to do something, but I'm not a killer, and the dose that I gave those gorillas, that's not going to hurt them, all right? I don't think so. Look,
Well,
I didn't kill her.
Well, you're incredibly lucky, Betty. Fortunately, none of the gorillas were harmed, but they're just going to have some rather serious bed hair when they wake up. But this does leave us with one final suspect, Mr. Michael Mothley. Now, you are a descendant of Lord Mothely. You received your place on the board by right of heritage, but it's been heard of your numerous screw-ups along the way. You were on your final warning before the board threw you out. I believe, Michael, that sadly you've messed up yet again on this one with the task of ordering a new gorilla. A mistake so colossal, you would have been out of a job for good. You've been trying to cover the whole thing up for weeks since you realised where you went wrong. Apart from when the press kept pushing you on it, so much so when Sebastian called, you panicked and gave him the name for a gorilla. Alpro, I believe. For any of the lactose intolerant or don't like milk or can't have milk people out there, I'm pretty sure Alpro is a rather popular name for a soya milk brand, which I guess was the first thing in front of you at your desk at the time when Sebastian was calling you. So you just panicked, and obviously being lactose intolerant yourself, you thought that might be something to throw off the scent, and it sounded rather suitable for a gorilla name. I think yesterday, Michael, when you went to speak to Louise, you claimed obviously you were going to do the handover of the paperwork for the gorilla. Louise actually had realised the mistake that you made. You realised you probably had ordered the wrong thing, and she was planning on exposing you, so you had to act rather quickly. What you did was you stole some tranquilizer from the storage cupboard in the Mothly House storeroom, went into the enclosure just before the park closed, and took advantage of Louise being distracted. You stabbed her with the dart to knock her out, probably hoping you could maybe blame her for a gorilla escaping along the way, and maybe just her being delirious. Not the smartest plan, but rather fitting from your previous endeavours. Am I on the right track, Mr. Mothly?
All right, Inspector.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
It would appear that it's not just your beard that's on point. Okay. It was me that killed Louise.
Yes.
But actually, it weren't me. It was Google Translate.
Yeah.
Like, I trusted Google. Like, I've always got really good cleaners off Google. Trusted it with my life.
Yes.
But Google Translate, who would think you go on, you're trying to get order an actual gorilla from,
and you end up instead ordering a storage container full of gorilla costumes. Isn't that right, Michael? That was the delivery you had to deal with yesterday, and you ended up going through and panicking, trying to disguise yourself as a funny-looking gorilla. Maybe to pretend to be Alpro, as it's been theorised along the way. Just
yeah,
one
I'm
mistake.
intolerant of milk.
Yes, that was probably one thing you should have learned, was maybe just eat a choc ice. No one would have suspected a thing otherwise.
Well, I couldn't eat a choc ice, could I? Look, Louisa was on to me, right? She knew what was going on, and I tried to say to her, look, can you help me hide these 5,000 gorilla costumes that I've got? You know, guy from Amazon, couldn't believe it. And, well, she wasn't having any of it. She just wouldn't help me out. And so, well, listen, I dressed up, I went in there, and the tranquilizer wasn't for Louise. I've got the tranquilizer in case the blooming female gorilla wanted to with me. That's what the tranquilizer was for. But then when Louise noticed that I wasn't eating the choc ice, because I can't, it's milk, innit? It's milk based. Yeah. Well, she knew there was something funny, and she got all confused, and then she noticed she could sort of see me socks underneath, and I panicked, and I used the tranquilizer on Louise's, and then, well, I just had to get out of there, and I smashed the door open, got away as fast as possible, and
then got spotted by a drunk in the car park along the way.
I'm pretty impressed with you, Inspector.
Yes, and I'm rather unimpressed with you, Mr. Mothly. But
only if I hadn't been lactose intolerant.
No, you were wearing...
Never would have exposed me.
No, you were wearing a gorilla mask. If you took it off to eat a choc ice, we would have seen it. But that does leave me with one thing to say. D.I. Harris and Constable Kiernan, congratulations, you have somewhat successfully caught the killer. But for yourselves and everyone playing at home, suspects, please give them a moderate social distancing round of applause. Or jazz hands, according to Miss Jolton. But thank you very much for playing. Have you enjoyed yourselves, D.I. Harris, Constable Keenan?
Yeah, it's been good fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks ever so much for having us.
Otherwise, I'm delighted to hear it. Thank you very much for everyone as well for playing at home this evening. As said, if you've enjoyed this evening's case, it has been brought to you by Moonstone Murder Mysteries, and if you haven't, well, I hope you've enjoyed watching the National Theatre Live. Once more, thank you so much for everyone who has donated so far. It's great to see a couple of bananas sitting in the ice cream sundae, and for everyone who donated with their tickets on Design My Night. We are back again at the same time next Thursday, 8:15 p.m. for what will be the final case of this series, Fatality on the Ferry. So remember to like, subscribe and share and help us the best you can. But for now, stay safe, stay at home, and we'll see you back on the case next week. Take care, detectives. As I casually try and find my mouse. Good night.